Okay, welcome back to part 3 of building a 1x2 Lego brick. I gotta tell you, I did not think that this was going to be a three-parter when I started. I think part of the problem is the fact that I talk too much. I'm going to work on that. But here we are, part 3. We have this wonderful brick ready to go, beautifully clean model. But I think in this video we're going to just make it look a little bit nicer. So a few things that we're going to do. First of all, we're going to apply a material to it, because right now it looks like generic Blender chalky white default material, because that's what's on it presently. And we're going to throw in a camera. I'll explain why later when we do it. We're going to add a light back into the scene as well, so that there's some illumination and some shadows, and it's all going to look beautiful. I got a very, very specific plan of how we're going to do this. But to get started, we're going to apply a material. So materials, think of materials as skins that we wrap around our objects. But it's not just colors, it's colors and all of the physical properties of that material as well. So think, reflectivity, or how shiny something is, or if it's got a texture on it. All of that is handled through the materials. Now, this is going to be a really, really light dive on materials. I don't understand them that well, and I don't think we need to do anything too sophisticated for this particular model anyway. Because all we want to do is we want to make this look like a piece of plastic, because that's what it is. Now, I went ahead and I grabbed the hexadecimal color for our Lego brick. Well, I want to make this an orange brick. I've used an orange brick in all my YouTube thumbnails so far, so I'd like this to be a bright orange Lego brick. So bright orange is a color that that Lego makes, and that's what we're going to apply to this. So I'm going to select the object, and then I'm going to go over to this side panel again, and I'm going to go to a spot that we haven't been yet, but it's this materials tab, and it's the little beach ball. I'm going to say that I want to add a new material, and we're going to call this orange Lego. And we're going to give it a color. So I can click here where this base color is. This is the base color. And I'm going to paste in that hex color. I'm going to put the hash in front of it, and then I'm going to end it with FF. FF, I think, just means make sure that this color is fully opaque. And there we go. We've got an orange brick. That was awfully easy, wasn't it? The problem is, right now, this view that we're looking at, you'll notice these 4 options. We've used a few of them already. Right now we're on Material Preview, I believe is what this one's called. Material Preview, yeah. So there's 4 options in total. Wireframe we used when we were doing our modeling. And then this is default shading, solid. Viewport shading, solid. So this is where all objects in the whole scene will just look like this. The materials that we've applied, nothing to do with the materials, are visible in this view. Material Preview gives us a nice, fully illuminated view of an approximation of something similar to what our material is going to look like. But what we ultimately want to do is this rendered view. And when we actually render, that's a separate step. But this is going to show us what the scene looks like with lighting applied. And, of course, if I turn this mode on, our brick is in absolute and complete darkness. And the reason for that is because there's no lights in this scene. So I'm going to add in a light right now. So I am going to Shift A, because I'm going to add something, but I'm not going to add a mesh this time. I'm going to add a light. And I'm going to add a point light. Now, by default, the point light gets added right where we left our 3D cursor. You may remember we left our 3D cursor here on top of this stud. That's where our light is going to be added by default. Now, I am going to use the G key just as I would to move an object, but I'm going to move the light, and I'm just going to move it up for now. We're going to position it a little bit more carefully, though, by changing our view to front orthographic. And how am I going to illuminate this? Let's put it off to the side, and then let's pull it forward as well. So if I go back to top, I'm going to pull the light so that it's sort of ahead and to the left of my brick. So now if I change our view, we have a very overexposed brick, and that's partly because the light is so close and partly because the light is so bright. Let's move the light a little bit further away. Let's move the light over here. There we go. And we're going to position this again so that we can see how things are looking. And do we like how... You know what? I want the light on the other side, partly because this is approximately the angle that I'm going to render when we're finished. This is the picture that I want of the Lego brick. And I'm noticing that the shadows are sort of falling away behind the studs, and we kind of can't see them. So let's switch back to top and zoom out, and let's leave the light sort of where it is, but on exactly the other side. So now when I return to this view, there we go. It's got a little bit more depth now. It's a little bit more dramatic. Now, speaking of dramatic, this light is still way too bright. So while we have our light selected, and we don't have to have our light in our view, remember, to pick it, because we can always use the scene collection over here to pick our objects. While we have our point light selected, I'm going to now make sure that I'm in this data tab. Now when we've got a light selected, it's a little picture of a light bulb, and this is where we can control the light properties. I'm going to turn the power down. We're going to turn the power way down, not that much. Maybe right about there. Maybe right about there. I like that. That looks good. Okay, so now we have an approximation of our color, of our material. We have a light. Now it's awfully dark on this side, but I think once we have our brick sitting on top of something, I'm going to fill in the rest of the scene with another object. Actually, let's do that next. So I am going to make, if you've ever been to a photography studio or you've ever watched product photos being taken, you've probably seen, backdrops or backdrops that curl onto the floor. We're going to build something like that. And it's going to be very, very easy because it's just basically two planes. A plane is one of the Blender primitives, and it's technically not a 3D object. It's technically just a single face. It's a single square face. And we're going to add two of them. We're going to add one as our floor and one as our back wall. So I'm going to press Shift-A right now. I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to hit Plane. And I'm going to zoom way out because, of course, the plane is enormous. While the plane is selected, I'm going to use S on my keyboard, and I'm going to just bring the size down so that it's not quite as ridiculously big as it was. And we can't see our brick right now because it technically is underneath this plane. So let's switch to front orthographic. And now I'm going to move my, you know what, let's do this. Let's put everything in the right spot. I'm going to select my brick, and I'm going to push G and Z, and I'm going to bring this so that it's sitting pretty much on the Z0. Remember this red line? This is where our, oh, you can't see it right now. This is, if the up and down is our Z index, Z equals 0 is on this red line. All of our axes indicators all sort of intersect at 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to move the brick up, and then I'm going to select my plane, and I'm going to press G and Z, and I'm going to drag my plane down so that my brick is sitting more or less on my plane. And look at what we're doing. Already this is looking great. But I said we were going to put a backdrop as well. Actually, you know what? Just for now, let's take it out of render mode, just because things work a little bit faster when we're not in rendered mode, and honestly we can see a little bit better because our lighting isn't set up perfectly yet. So I'm going to duplicate my floor by selecting it and pressing Shift D. So now I have what is going to be my wall, but it's not looking very much like a wall. It's looking more like a second floor. I need to rotate it. So I'm going to press R to rotate, and I don't want to just freeform rotate it, but I want to rotate it along the x-axis. And I actually want it to be straight up and down. So I know that if I type 90 right now, that's going to rotate it 90 degrees from where it was. And we just need to connect this to the back of our floor. And I'm going to do that by pressing G, and B because I'm going to select a vertex, and I'm going to lock that vertex to here. And now we have a floor, and we have a backdrop. And while we're here, why don't we make this a little bit fancier? Oftentimes, to eliminate this hard shadow that you might get in the back, they'll curl. You know, there's a curl, so that it's not just a flat, meaning a flat at 90 degrees, but there's a bend. And we're going to simulate that. The way we're going to do that is by making these two faces one object. Now, you remember the Boolean modifier? We used it to attach the studs to our brick. I'm going to use it again right now. I'm going to go to modifiers and add modifier. And I am going to add a Boolean modifier. And I'm going to say union. And we are applying this to which one? We're applying this to the wall. So then the second object I pick with the eyedropper needs to be my floor. And we're going to go ahead and apply. And I should be able to delete my plane. So we now have one object that is both this upright face and this vertical face, horizontal face. And to accomplish that bend, all I'm going to do, we haven't done this yet, I'm going to move into edit mode with tab, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on edge select, and I'm going to select this back edge, and I'm going to use the bevel command. Bevel command on my Mac is Command B. And what this is going to let me do is it's going to let me bevel that edge. So you notice I can use my mouse to determine, how big the bevel is, and then while I'm setting the bevel up, I can also use my mouse wheel to increase or decrease the number of segments. So I think by default you just get one segment. So that's, if you're following along at home, this is what you would probably see, but then as soon as you scroll down and start adding more segments. So I'm just going to do something that looks like that. And press tab to get out of edit mode. So when we're setting up our photo here, if I have my wall and I have my floor in the shot, there won't be a hard edge at the back. In fact, I'm going to right-click on this, and I'm going to select Shade Smooth. And that's just going to take that segmentation. It's still the same number of faces. It's just Blender's going to smooth everything out and make those steps through that bevel not quite as hard. If I go into edit mode, you'll notice it's still the same shapes. This is just something that it's doing for display purposes. And because we're going to take our photo sort of from this angle, and I don't want over here in my shot, I want everything in the background to be either floor or wall. I'm actually going to press G and X, and I'm going to slide this way. So I think we're going to end up with something that looks a little bit like, probably something like that. So now we also need a camera, because we can't render, this is our viewport view, we can't render this. In order to render, we need to have a camera. So we're going to add the camera back in. I'm going to press Shift A on my keyboard, and this time we're going to add a camera. Notice there aren't multiple types of cameras, there are just cameras. So we now have a camera in our scene. So the problem is the camera will be added, I'm not sure where the camera is going to be added. If I press 0 on my numeric keypad, though, it's going to take me to where my camera sees. This is where my camera sees right now. And that is no good. So I'm going to press 0 again to return to, this is called user perspective. This is our viewport. And I believe on my Mac, I can press Command Option 0. And that mostly worked. Why did that not work perfectly? If I now move around, oh, you know what? We were just zoomed in too much. We were slightly too far zoomed in. Okay, that's perfect. Let's do remember that keyboard shortcut. It was Command Option 0. So this is our scene. This is our camera. And so now I can zero back and forth between user perspective, camera. Well, we have the camera selected. Go down to this Data tab again. So remember, this is where we controlled the light properties when we were looking at a light. Well, now that we're looking at a camera, it's where we control the camera properties. One of the things that we can set is the focal length. And just like if you were using different lenses on your camera, if you've got a DSLR camera and you can take lenses off and put new lenses on, we can simulate that by doing this. So how close do we want to be? I think maybe there. We want the brick to be pretty much full frame. Yeah. But you know what? I want it to be centered a little bit more. The good news is we can also shift the camera. Moving cameras around can be really tricky. I can use these options here to sort of shift both in the horizontal and the vertical. So if I get my camera shot almost right, but I just need to tweak it, I can do that. But I'm actually going to do this the other way. So we're going to press N again. We're going to go back into the View tab again, and we're going to say Camera to View. And the idea behind this is that as long as this is set, I can use my usual navigation means. I can orbit, and I can pan with Shift and my middle mouse button, and I can zoom. And as I do all of these things, it's actually updating my camera's position. So if I press View and turn that off, and then I press 0 to return to my user perspective, and 0 to return to my camera, you'll see what we've done is we've adjusted our camera position. So really, really handy. Because when you're working around in Blender, obviously you get really used to orbiting and shift panning and zooming and things. So it's a really familiar way to move your camera. So let's go back to render view again. That shadow is really, really hard. This is more dramatic a look than I'm going for. This Lego brick didn't murder anybody. We don't need it to be quite so intense. So we can control that again by changing our lighting settings. So we're going to select our light over in the scene collection again. Make sure that we're in the data tab. And there's this radius. And we can use this radius to sort of soften what's happening with the shadows. And notice the whole scene gets a little bit darker when I do that as well. So I'm going to bring my power up a little bit, maybe 1.5. Is 2 too much? No, I don't think 2 is too much. I like that. So this is starting to look really good. Now, the only other thing that I'm noticing is that my brick is looking a little bit too flat. If you're familiar with Lego, you know that it's fairly glossy. We haven't changed our material other than just changing the color so far. So let's select our cube again. You know what? Let's rename our cube. This isn't a cube anymore. This hasn't been a cube for a long time. This is now a Lego brick. There we go. He's earned the right to call himself that. So while we have our Lego brick selected, I'm going to switch back to, no, not modifiers, material. And we're going to talk about a couple of these other sliders. Alpha. How transparent is the brick? Well, it's not. It's not at all transparent. But you can see how we can affect the finished product simply by modifying the properties of our material. So we're going to definitely keep this all the way up because Lego bricks aren't. Some Lego bricks are see-through. This one is not. Metallic. You know, maybe this was a chrome piece and I can turn up the metallicness of it. And as this renders, you'll see it's going to start to make it look a little bit more. Like, look at this. Look at the way the light is reflecting off of the stud and then hitting the top face here. And as I turn this up, this is only going to get more pronounced. Right? So how do you make something look like metal? You turn up the metallic property of its, like, look at that. That's a metal Lego brick. But this is not a Lego made of. This is not a metal Lego brick. This is a plastic Lego brick. And the roughness is where we're going to control the matteness or shininess. Not metallic shiny, but well, you'll see. Right now it's set to 50%. If I turn it all the way up, we now are going to have a perfectly matte. There's no shine at all. We can see some highlights just from where the light is striking things, but there's no shininess to it at all. But we want to turn this down. We want to turn it down quite a bit, maybe 20%-ish. So now you can start to see we're getting some some features that make it look like plastic. It's getting, along these edges, we're seeing a little bit of shine, right? In fact, I think I can even turn it down a little bit more. So here we go. We've got what's looking like a great Lego brick, I think. So this is our render preview. If we really want to step this up, and we do, the next step is for us to just go to the render menu and say render image. And now it's going to take its time. Right now it's estimating about 4 minutes. 6 minutes, it's going to take a really long time. I'm not going to make you watch. But basically it's going to iterate, and it's going to get us closer and closer and closer. You know what? Before we do this, I'm just noticing now that shadow under the brick is a little bit too prominent. I think we're a little bit far away. So before we do anything else, let's come back in here. Let's get out of our camera. And let's switch to front orthographic and get zoomed in nice and close. We're just a little bit too high still. So let's press G and Z, and we're going to move down until we're just touching. We don't want to clip, right? We don't want our Lego brick to go through the floor. We just want it to be sitting on the floor. And if I press 0, I think that we're probably there. So I'm going to press render, and I'll be back in just a moment when this is finished. We're back, and it's still not finished yet, but there's something happening that I am not even remotely happy with. Notice as I zoom in here. All of this artifacting. This is not good at all. So this is another thing that I'm learning about Blender, is that you can have your model great, but as soon as you go to render it, you're going to realize that there's just some problems with your topology. And honestly, I think my problem stems from my bevel modifier. So I've actually removed the bevel modifier. So we're back to the initial problem that we had, which was the tops of the studs and all of the corners of the brick are too sharp. But we already introduced a new thing earlier today. Remember when we did the back wall? We used the bevel command. Well, I can just do the same thing here. I can selectively apply bevels in the couple of places that I want them, and just leave these uprights alone. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to edit mode with tab, and I'm going to select this whole ring of the top ring of edges of the stud. So first of all, make sure that I'm in edge select mode. And if I hold down command and click, nope, not command and click. There we go. Option and click on my Mac. And I'm going to hold shift and option and click over here. I'm going to apply a bevel to these two. So while they're selected, command B, remember, and I'm just the slightest little, this is, okay, 0.000125. And I want to remember that because I want to apply the same bevel to the brick itself. And it looks like there's 2 segments. I think there's 2 segments. You know what, let's have a look in here. Yeah. Oh, 3 segments. 3 segments. So, I think that this is going to look much better. Let's now also, while we're in edit mode, select this edge, and this edge, and this edge, and this edge, and this edge. I'm going to select all the edges. Oh, I guess I could have just selected the faces too, couldn't I? And come around the back, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And you know what? Technically, we want to get the bottoms as well. But maybe we'll do those separately because this is getting complicated. So while those are all selected, command B, nothing crazy like that, 0.00125. And I can even type that in, 0.000125, segments 3, bang. So now we've got the same bevel. There we go. So now we've got a nice looking bevel where we want it. Render image. And I'll be back. And 5 minutes and 57 seconds later, we have our finished render. And I'm very happy with that. So, listen, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for enduring all 3 parts. I promise I'm going to get faster at this. And, yeah, subscribe, because there's going to be more stuff. I don't know what I'm doing next. But thank you, and happy Blender.